Yo, brother, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
I like the new backdrop. Very MAGA of you.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
did you are
yeah.
you
Super
sitting
back.
in a different spot in your house? Because I feel like I'm looking. There was a wall previously.
I am. Yeah, yeah. So I moved into my winter office.
Okay, well, that's very good. Is it getting cold up there?
It's starting to get cold. Yeah. I
Nice.
usually, and what I did this year is I just like dealt with it for like a month. I had like a little space heater, and I just was like, you know, getting my body used to the cold for about a month, and then now I'm finally moving in here.
Okay, so is there like one of the rooms in I've seen your place is unique. I'm just gonna say it's above a business. But
Yeah.
is it like does the heater not work throughout the whole unit upstairs
Yeah, I
or
have one giant heater
okay,
in the kitchen, which leads into the bedroom, and then there's a door that can close off, and it leads into that two big open spaces.
gotcha.
And so, yeah, to get the whole house heated, I have to bring fans in and like
Yeah,
blow it into the,
just
yeah, it's a pain in the ass. So,
close it off and be in the bedroom. So yeah, I'm good with that. But yeah, very very nice backdrop. Be real quick. We barely covered last time like the absurdity of Matt Gaetz and his pick to be AG. And then I don't think we've recorded since he pulled himself out of the nomination, have we?
uh, yeah, did we talk about that? Well, it might have been the day of.
I think that like the next day he pulled himself out because I think like we had just put out the last episode and then he pulled out. So I don't think we've talked about it yet.
Okay.
Real quick, it's fantastic that he is already doing cameo, like in less than 2 days. So, like,
Okay.
yeah, even Kim Dillon, like live on air, tried to like buy a cameo, and Matt Gaetz, like, I guess they can cancel it if something about it they don't like, they can say no, I'm not doing this, and Matt Gaetz canceled it because he didn't want to do it.
Oh,
But here's what's fun: when he officially pulled himself out AG, he resigned from this Congress. He just got elected to the next Congress. So like there was he totally, if he wanted to, could have just wrote out like he resigned. He's not a congressman right now, and then he could have got sworn in on January 5th, I think is when they do that. And
right.
he could have just been back in Congress. So that was everybody was waiting for a day or two, like, oh shit, is he just going to be in Congress again? But he has since come out and said he is not going to take the oath for the next Congress.
Okay.
So he's gonna become a fixture on there's a couple different like media outlets. The Steve Bannon's whole outfit, War Room, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Right Side Broadcast News, RBSN or something like that, is one of the
He'll end up
channels.
with his own show or his own podcast. Yeah.
Newsmax, one of those. I don't know about Fox, but like one of those, he'll end up and he'll have a decent. He'll make more money doing that than he would have in Congress, and he'll. I hate to say this, but he'll have more power leading an audience like that than he had as a congressman. That's a terrible thing to admit to, but like that's really where it's at. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, so everybody that's like, ha ha, Matt Gaetz is not. He's gonna be just fine. Like I hate to say it, but he's gonna do all right wherever he's at. So it's
Yeah,
sad.
DeSantis even said Matt Gaetz is not gonna be our governor.
No, he said he's not going to be the senator. He said he's not going to be the senator that he nominates.
But well, I thought he said he wasn't going to endorse him for governor
Oh,
either.
he might have
Or
said that. He
okay,
might have said he's not. But I don't think that'll matter a whole lot, especially if Matt Gaetz has like the Trump like bump, like if Trump jumps in full behind, because Trump and DeSantis kind of don't get along. They get along in public, but there's ever since DeSantis ran against him, it's been a thing. So like
yeah,
if DeSantis has his person that he's going to fully put all his weight behind, I would not be shocked at all if Trump jumped in and said, "Okay, I'm back in Gates," and then it's a battle of Trump versus DeSantis, and I'm putting my money on Trump in that deal. Whoever Trump, if Trump jumps in behind Gates and puts his full weight behind it, Gates is going to be the next governor of Florida.
yeah,
Just be ready
yeah.
for that.
Okay, well, that's scary too, but
Yeah.
whatever.
So his replacement though, Pam Bondi. This is one of those where I say it could have been so much worse. I'm not thrilled that she's going to be the AG. She'll get confirmed easily. There's not really any reason not to. She was the Attorney General of Florida for like 8 years. Um, she was one of Trump's defending lawyers in the impeachment. I think the second impeachment. She like defended him in front of the House or the Senate. I guess it was the Senate. Um, She's a lobbyist after she defended Trump and when she was done being the AG in Florida, she's been a lobbyist for the last 4 years. She
Oil
everybody
and gas, right?
now so a lot of different things, but the country of it's pronounced Qatar. I officially looked this up, Qatar, but it's spelled Qartar, so we all call it Qatar or something like that.
Guitar,
The
yeah.
right way to say it is it's Qatar. even though it's not spelled like that.
Are you sure? Or is that the Oklahoma version or
Nope,
is
that
that
is
the
I did some research on this. I feel confident that it is Qatar.
so
It
in Qatar they call it Qatar.
in Arabic they probably call it something that doesn't sound anything like that, but the way we call
Okay.
it is Qatar. Anywho, um,
Because we're
she she
American.
she lobbied for Qatar. Susie Wiles lobbied for Qatar. Like Qatar's a really small country over there, and it seems like a lot of Republicans keep getting like tied back to lobbying for them. So I'm curious. I'm
Hmm.
just curious. I don't have anything to say beyond that. It seems odd that they keep coming up. She also
Yeah, that's
lobbied. She lobbied for Amazon, GM, Uber, and multiple finance firms. She is a swampy creature. Trump's got so the first time Trump ran, he ran on drain the swamp. He said that all of 2015, 16. And then when he got
right.
in, he built his cabinet of like nothing but swamp creatures. And that was the problem people like me had with it. It was like, dude, you hired the swamp to you're not even trying to drain the swamp. And this time he's kind of going 50-50. Like he's got some swamp and some not swamp. She is swamp. So again, it could be worse. She's very MAGA, but she's also she did a good job as Attorney General of Florida. Like she's going to come down on the right side of a lot of issues, and
Yeah.
that's all you're going to get. You're not. It's not going to get any better with anybody. When Gaetz dropped out, I don't know if you remember, but I texted you and I said he dropped out, and you said who's his replacement going to be, and I said somebody worse. Like
Oh,
the whole un,
yeah.
the whole unintended consequences thing. Like yay, Gaetz dropped out, and now he's nominating blah blah blah. It could have been so much
Yeah.
worse. So.
Well, I mean, it sounds like she's a little bit smarter than Gates. Like she's gonna get more stuff done than
She'll
Gates would
be
have, which is bad.
but here's the thing: would you rather have a moron like Gates that is probably gonna he's probably gonna screw up and draw a lot of attention and have trouble getting things through, or like Bill Barr the last time? Bill Barr was his AG, and he was not a dummy. Like he knew exactly what he could do and couldn't do, and he
Yeah.
walked things up to the line of what he could do. And like the way he kind of censored the whole Mueller report, like he did it in a legal way where you could whine about it, but he didn't do anything illegal. Like so.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost would rather have Gates and I would rather have a shit show in there, but
No,
whatever.
I'm glad it's not Gates. But like I said, Bondi could be worse. His Treasury Secretary pick is a guy named Scott Bessent. It came down to him or one other guy. Oh, I forgot the guy's name. Starts with an L. But Elon did not want this guy. Elon wanted Litnick, Howard Litnick, or something like that was the other guy it could have
Okay.
been.
And that they're both like
They're both Wall Street
real
type
estate
guys.
guys?
They're Wall
Oh,
Street. They're
Wall Street.
financial investors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This
Okay.
guy, Scott Bessent, it's very interesting. He's your straight up Wall Street guy. He has some people say he's like the George Soros protege. I don't. I think that that's just. It's one of those where if they've ever done anything with George Soros, people are going to try to make it seem like they're linked. I don't think it's to that, but he did. He managed George Soros's money for a while and made George Soros a shitload of money. So he was his money. He was
Okay.
his financial advisor type thing. He definitely has Soros connections, but it's one of those where I think they use Soros as too much of a boogeyman, and it's like, oh, he's connected to Soros. What you mean, like Soros hired him to manage his portfolio? Like that doesn't mean they see ideologically like the same. It just means he hired somebody good to do his money. So
Yeah.
I don't see a problem there. He
Hmm.
the one thing that makes me happy about this, and I'm not a burn it all down guy. Like a lot of the Trump people, like the MAGA fans right now, are they're excited about like just burn it all down, and I'm so scared
Yep.
of that happening. He's not that kind of guy, and he also like they say that he's going to calm the markets. Like Trump picked him because it's like, hey, somebody reasonable's in here, so and he
Okay.
this guy's been going on CNBC and a couple other channels, and he's been the guy saying, hey. Trump's not really going to do across the board tariffs. Like he's using this as leverage to try to get, good trade deals done and this and
And
that.
Trump's going, shh, don't tell China, don't tell China.
So, but that makes me feel better about the economy. It could have been somebody worse. Is all I'm saying. Like it could have been worse. So right there, his two newest picks that I've named, it could have been worse. I'm not unhappy. Um, Lori Chavez de Reamer. I'm going to say her name wrong. Um,
The Reamer?
That's the best thing that could have happened to Democrats right there. He picked her as the what is her actual it's like labor secretary or something. I can't remember what it is, but she is a very moderate Republican from a swing district where she had to kind of be right in the center to get elected. She's
Yeah.
pro union. She voted for the PRO Act, which
Oh,
it's one of the things Biden put through that was a very pro union thing. So
okay.
the union, all the union bosses, the Teamsters and the car, what is it, the United Auto Workers, they're all very happy with this pick. She is I think she did not win her last election, but she's a former Republican congresswoman, very pro-union, very pro-labor. Doesn't make sense. The people that hate this are the right-wing people, like Eric Erickson that I listen to every day is rallying people. He does not want this to happen. This is
Okay.
terrible. Um,
Okay, so what does the right have against unions?
Their argument would be that the business owner knows what's better for his employees than the government does.
Well, a union's not the government.
That's the way. So they don't want the government telling them what they can and cannot do and saying yes they can form unions or no they can't. Like the business wants
So
to be
it's
able to
just
say,
the fact that the employees are coming together
yeah,
to
they're
form
it's
a
called
union.
organizing. They're organizing. And
Yeah.
if you're a business owner, the thought of your workers organizing is scary because now they have leverage and they're going to try to demand higher pay and more benefits or whatever else. So if you own a business,
Yeah.
and that, so one of the things that the PRO Act put through that businesses used to be able to, like if there were whispers that a union was trying to form, they would bring all the workers in and there was a name for this meeting and I can't remember it, but
Union busting.
so there was like a hidden, like they would call it a such and such. It sounded real nice and neat. But what it was they'd get him in there and play videos for him and be like, "Hey, if you unionize, this is what's going to happen." And it was all the bad things that could happen if you unionize, and it was basically to scare people out of. And it would basically be like, "Don't talk to that crazy person trying to form a union." And a part of the PRO Act was making that illegal. Like businesses can't show those those anti-union videos anymore.
Okay.
Um, so
Huh.
I've always been pro-union. It's not the Republican stance, but I've always been in. I think that when you have the opportunity to get the leverage on the workers' side, you should do it. And
Yeah.
the leverage is primarily it's very much like with the NFL has the players union and they
Yep.
negotiate a CBA every 4 or 5 years. They have to renegotiate a new one. It's like, yeah, the owners have all the leverage, so I'm totally in favor of the players doing whatever they can to get some of that leverage back. And because they've done that,
Totally.
they get higher salaries. Like good for them. So, and the owners are doing just fine. They're not on the
No.
verge of going broke, so they're fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Huh. And I
anyhow,
mean,
so
that's interesting. The
so
union
right.
thing is just interesting to me because it's like the Republicans have always been the for the working people, right? But
No.
everybody that I've seen talk about their being in a union, they love their union. They're
So
like happy with the unions.
your assumption is wrong. Democrats for our whole childhood and forever were the working man's party, and
Oh.
something happened in 2015, 16 where Trump, a Republican, won like the pro-union workers vote for the, and it was,
Oh.
and that was the whole thing is Democrats fucked around and lost like the white what is it, the white working class, like is kind of what they described it as. So
Okay.
Trump lost or Trump won them, and then Biden kind of won them back in 2020, and then Trump won them big in 24. So it's
Okay.
very odd if you're a Republican that has a union, or sorry, if you're a, let's say, a 40-year-old man with a family and you have a union job, just looking at what's best for you, the last thing you should do is vote for a Republican. But a lot of, like, I think most of them did. And it's one of those where people sometimes vote against their self-interest. And like Trump went on that Spaces talk with Elon, and like him and Elon, where he was congratulating Elon because some of Elon's
Oh yeah.
workers tried to form a union and strike, and he fired them all. And Trump was like, "Oh, that was great when you did that." And it's like, if you're pro-union, that's bad. But like I said, I think the majority of them voted for Trump this time, which, but he
Yeah.
he just rewarded them by, and you could say, I would have said all the way up until he named this girl, I would have said that was a mistake, and he is definitely going to try to bust all the unions. But then he nominated this girl for labor secretary, so
Okay.
maybe he's not. I now
We'll
several of
see.
the other things that like the next guy I'm going to talk about, Russ Vo, I think is his name. It looks like Vought. I'm going to say Vought occasionally, but it's Russ Vo.
Okay.
Like everything he wants to do has to do with busting unions. So there's going to be a little competing friction in
A
there.
lot of infighting.
Yeah, it's gonna. He likes that. He likes the chaos.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that bring
sticking with
okay.
workers, I just kind of read a headline about somebody just passed something about no more overtime pay.
Texas judge that
Texas.
was
Oh, it's Texas.
so it was a Texas judge that was appointed by Trump in his first term, struck down, and it was basically a deal guaranteeing overtime pay to workers. I can't. There are certain loopholes where certain jobs don't have to pay you overtime. Um,
Right.
and this was saying no, everybody gets time and a half overtime pay. And this Trump appointed judge struck it down and said it was unconstitutional. And I mean, that's what you're gonna get. I mean, that's what Republicans believe. No, the government can't say that we have to pay you overtime. Like we're gonna pay you what we pay you, and if you don't like it, we're gonna fire you and bring somebody else in here to do it. Like that's what Republicans want the business life, the boss worker relationship to be. So
Yeah, they want the boss to have all the power and the workers to have no power.
yeah, but and like maybe Trump's gonna be the new generation of Republican. I mean, he brought this lady in, Lori Chavez de Reamer. We'll see. I don't know. There's going to be some infighting. We're gonna talk about RFK here in a little bit, but that's the main one I want to get to. But real quick, three cabinet picks that we just went over, kind of the three biggest one he's made. I don't hate any of them. Like, I don't get me wrong, I'd rather somebody else, but I'm comparing everything to how bad it could have been. So that's not bad right there. Those three picks are not terrible.
Okay.
The next one though, the last one we're going to talk about, Russ Vo, Office of Management and Budget. Okay, so this is a powerful guy. This is a guy that is dishing out money and approving budgets and spending. Okay. He
Yep.
is the architect of Project 2025. In the last episode, I told you that Trump had basically appointed 3 out of the 4 writers of Project 20. This is the guy that put it all together. So now we're 4 for 4.
Yeah.
There is hidden camera footage of him from a couple months ago that I encourage you to watch. And I don't know, I can't remember what the group was, but they got into like his hotel and had a meeting with him, like in his room. This was the footage
Yeah.
where he was saying, he was like, yeah, right now Trump's saying that he doesn't know what Project 2025 is, and he's got to say that to get elected. But like, don't be mistaken. Like, he's definitely using our plan. We've been in. He spilled all the beans, and nobody cared. It didn't really impact a single vote. But he also
Nobody's gonna read Project 2025.
no.
Nobody on the
But
right anyway.
in that same video, he said a lot of crazy shit. He basically said only Christians should be allowed in the United States, not Muslims, not Jews, just only Christians.
Oh wow.
Um, I can't remember. He said a lot of crazy shit. It's been a while since I've seen that video.
Oh,
But
so his confirmation hearing is gonna be really interesting.
I think he'll get through easier than others. I think there's two that are going to have the hardest time. I think he's going to get through. Republicans, he wants to create what the Republicans have fantasized about for the last since the Reagan administration. So for the past 40 years, Republicans have fantasized about the way government could be if they had total control, and he wants to execute it. And he's smart enough. He's driven. He has been He's been working on this for years. Like if he should get this chance, he has a playbook ready, and that's Project 2025 mainly, but he's been working on it for a while.
Okay.
It all hinges on one key thing, whether he's going to be successful or not. Okay. Richard Nixon back in a little bit 1970, roughly. He was the first president to test the presidential powers, basically to claim that the president has more powers than anybody really thought they had. Um,
Right.
a lot of the people that were pushing Trump to do that the first time were like young in the Nixon administration, and like they firmly believe that. Nixon believed, and this is going to get a little complicated here, but I've asked you this before. In government, who controls the purse strings? It's a saying.
Oh,
Blank.
the Senate,
Congress. So the House and the
Congress, yeah.
Senate. We have to do a budget every year. It starts in the House, it goes to the budget or to the Senate. They have to agree upon it. Then it goes to the president to sign, and that's what we're spending this year. Budget fights are always nasty. Nixon believed that, hey, just because it's in the budget, that's really the limit of how much I can spend, but it's not saying I have to spend all of it. I could spend less. And that was his argument.
Yeah.
And so certain programs that he didn't like, he could just say, I'm not going to spend anything on that. And the Congress got upset and was like, no, it's in the we allocated this amount of money to it. You have to spend it. And he said, no, I don't have to. That's the limit. I'm gonna say I'm not spending anything. He lost over a dozen court cases, and it finally worked its way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court agreed with the House and the Senate, said, no, this has been negotiated and worked out by Congress. You have to spend that. This was called the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
So this kind of sounds like if Trump wants to oh, where was it going with that? I mean, like lower the interest rates. If he can he just lower the interest rates then?
So no, he has the chairman of the Fed has to lower the interest rates. And right now it's a big thing where everybody that knows the Constitution and the law says that Trump cannot make him do it. And Trump's going, no, no, I can make him do it. And Trump technically also doesn't have the power to fire this guy and replace him with someone who will. Trump's going to test that. Trump's going to try to fire him, and he's going
Right.
to fire him, and then it's going to have to work its way to the courts, and then it's going to get to the Supreme Court, and like that. We're heading. He's going to do it with this. The way that this is, because real quick, this has been affirmed in 1996. So same exact thing. You know how we always talk about the pork that they slide into bills? Like it'll be a bill about this, but then somebody will slide something else in that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So to get around that, the president, and I think it was Clinton at the time, I think it was in 96, wanted to basically create what was it called? The Line Item Veto Act, where it's basically the House and Senate negotiate, they agree upon it, they vote on it, and now it goes to the president's desk, and the president can say, I'm going to sign this, but I'm vetoing this one part, this one line
Oh,
item. I'm taking this out, but I'm going to sign the rest. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, nope, can't do that. It's what the House and the Senate have agreed upon. You either sign it or you don't, but you can't sign part of it. So that
right.
everybody viewed as that reaffirming the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. So it's already been tested and held in the Supreme Court. The way we're going to get there again is Trump's going to immediately say, I don't care what you put in the budget. I'm not going to spend certain programs like Head Start is a program that does health care for low income people in the cities. Okay. Republicans want to get rid of that. If you can't afford health care, you don't deserve it.
Yep.
Title One funding is funding for elementary school in low income areas, normally in big cities. And the government gives a little extra funding because there's not enough property taxes there to have enough funding for the schools. Republicans want that gone. So
Right.
certain things like those two, he could just say, no, I'm going to spend zero on that. Take me to court. And then it's going to work its way through the courts and eventually end up at the Supreme Court where he has a 6-3 majority.
Yeah.
If if the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 fails, if they say it's unconstitutional, then this Russ Vo guy can do everything he wants to do. He that's when he can go to work. If it holds true, if they say nope, this has already been decided in 74, it got affirmed in 96, then it's going to limit anything he could possibly do. He can still do some stuff, but it's not going to be just an open road to it. So the problem is it takes about a year to get things to the Supreme Court, maybe more. So if they come in and slash a whole bunch of these programs, there's going to be a year or two where they just don't have any funding while the Supreme Court dicks around and figures this stuff out. So
Yeah. And yeah, Supreme
yeah.
Court's a scary place right now.
But Russ Vo, if you were afraid of Project 2025, this should scare you. If you're one of those people that said, "Oh, they're not really going to do it," oh no. Like, and this is the guy that wants to fully ban porn. He said that he
Yep.
doesn't believe in exceptions for rape and incest or life of the mother. He believes firmly that
Oh,
God put the baby in you, so God
oh.
wants it there. You should let
What
it
if it
play
was the
out.
devil that put the baby in you?
They don't believe that. If and their theory is if you die during childbirth, that's part of God's plan.
Oh,
So now you're
oh,
being called to go be with God. So this guy is like extreme right as they come, and Office of OM&B, it's right where he needs to be. Like if you want him to execute the plan, he's in the driver's seat to do it,
oh
and
my gosh.
all he needs is the Supreme Court to help him out, and he's there. So
I started looking up some of the Project 2025 stuff, and I found there's a lot of stuff about vaccines and mandates
okay,
and masks and mandates. And I guess they just want to get rid of the fact that any president can make a mandate depending
so
on your health care, which
I'd
is
like to stop
interesting.
you. Hold on, I got to stop you real quick because the federal government, Trump or Biden, never put a mask or vaccine mandate on any part of the population. Now, local states and cities did it. The federal
Yeah.
government didn't, and I don't think the federal government should be able to. And go ahead.
Did Biden try to, though? It
No,
sounds like he tried to.
no, he strongly encouraged, and
Okay.
he said if you don't get a vaccine, it's going to be a winter of suffering and death, and he said stuff like that. But at no point did they try to put a national mandate out there. They tried to encourage states to do it. They did not do it
Okay.
themselves. And real quickly, I'll say this as someone who moved, like I lived in DFW during the first year and a half, 2 years of COVID, and then I moved to the country of Oklahoma. And that was eye opening because I was like, oh, we shouldn't have the same rules for all areas. Like it's really different out here where I'm at, very spread out than in a congested city. And
Yeah.
the rules should be dictated at the localist level possible. So if your
Totally.
city wants to put a mask mandate in because hospitals are overflowing and stuff, I'm cool with that. I don't want the state doing it. I want the city doing it. I definitely don't want the federal government doing it. But if they think that there should be safety precautions because of whatever viruses or whatever's going around. I don't know if you're seeing right now this it's like the H5N1 bird flu thing that's going around.
Oh, there's another one going around?
Oh, it's one of the so nobody's talking about it. It popped up in Florida's wastewater like within the last 3 or 4 days.
Oh, in
Um,
Florida, of course, Florida's.
yeah, it's the next pandemic to possibly hit, and the last time Trump got in, though after it was SARS, I think. It was like SARS in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
Biden had or not Biden, Obama had a team put together like a pandemic playbook of like, here's what we've learned throughout all of them. If a pandemic hits, go grab this book and open it to page one and start reading because this is the things we've learned. And Trump, when he came in, like they threw that out. They were like, we're not doing this shit. And 2.5 years later, COVID hit. So I don't know if they've built a new pandemic playbook, but if the next pandemic, if it's the bird H5N1, whatever it is, or the next, there's going to be another after that. If RFK is in charge and like Project 2025 is kind of rolling things, like I'm interested. I'm gonna be curious as to how things are gonna go. There's gonna
Wow.
there's gonna have to be some health guidance. I'm not saying it needs to be mask or vaccine, but we're gonna have to be able to rely on HHS or the CDC to tell us what's
Yeah.
going on and what to do. And
Well, Fauci's out.
Fauci's long gone. If MAGA has their way, he'll be in jail here soon.
Yeah.
But that sets up a real interesting Vivek, or sorry, were you done with Project 2025? Because I got a whole
Oh no, there's
theory.
so much more.
Go
I mean,
ahead, but
and I've only touched a little bit of what they're trying to do, and I could run through it real quick.
yeah, let me hear some.
There's a lot about okay, masks and vaccines, trans. There's a lot of little
Protecting
tidbits about
women.
the trans. I think they want to get rid of gay marriage.
They've said that. I've
Yeah,
been having discussions with people recently where they're like, they're not going to do that, and I'm like, well, they're saying they're going to do it. I mean, they're kind of open about it.
definitely no trans in the military, which
No women serving in combat in the military either is one of the
oh
things.
yeah, I forgot about that one. And then I want to read this part to you. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation, gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Gender equality, uh, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitivity, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists.
Okay.
So they're saying that putting these terms in is against the First Amendment right. So they want to get rid of that, which would be a First Amendment
So I'll
right.
say this. They could what all they have the power to do is get rid of the government requiring businesses do all that. From
Right.
firsthand experience from talking to people that do HR stuff, a lot of businesses are going to continue to do all that, and it's simply to cover their ass. Because if they have a sexual harassment thing happen in their business, but they can show that, hey, we have every employee go to gender sensitivity training, and we put them through an HR training that makes them less liable, like financially, like paying out in settlements, if they can show all the things they're doing to try to prevent this. So just from a cover your ass standpoint, a lot of businesses are going to keep doing everything they're doing. The government might not be requiring, but it helps in the courtroom. And that's if you're a big business, you're always thinking about covering your ass on that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's one more quote. Families comprised of a married mother, father, and their children are the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society. Oh, we're going to talk about healthy society now.
Yeah.
Um,
The nuclear
the
family.
male-female dyad is essentially essential to human nature, and every child has a right to a mother and a father. I'm not sure what that means, but it seems like they're like if you're a fatherless child, they're going to assign you a father.
No, so I believe what that means, and I know a couple that is a gay couple. They're the nicest people I know, and they adopted a daughter, and they are scared to death right now that A, they're not going to be recognized as being married anymore due to it's Supreme Court Obergefell or something like that versus blah blah blah. But a couple of Clarence Thomas and yeah, I can't remember the other conservative judge have said recently in their opinions that they think that those two laws should be looked at again because they overstepped their reach. Um, and that would do away with gay marriage federally. So now,
For
if you
step their reach.
overstepped their reach, basically that the Supreme Court shouldn't have been able to rule and make gay marriage legal across the nation, that the Congress should have had to do that. So
Oh, that's
anyhow,
weird.
so if that falls, then that'll mean like certain states you can be married in, but if you're married and you live in Minnesota and you decide to travel to Texas to see family, like as soon as you step foot in Texas, you're not married anymore. Like legally, the state of Texas doesn't recognize your marriage. And then the last part you said about each child having the right to a mother and a father
Yeah, every
is
child
to
has a right to a mother and a father.
so that's talking about gay or lesbian couples um, having adopted kids, basically.
Yeah.
So and that's what we're like the
But
people
what
I
about
know.
single mothers? What about a single mother or a single father?
I don't know about that. I'm just
They're just
telling you.
gonna assign
I've
assign
read
somebody to you?
I've read enough. I know where their thinking is on this, and that's where they're at. Is they want to do away with gay marriage, and they definitely think that gays and lesbians should not be able to adopt. So if they can do away
Ugh.
with that, they'd be quite happy. Um, it's stupid. Yeah. What else you got?
That's as far as I got.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about Mike Huckabee.
Okay. So all I know about Huckabee is they just named him to be ambassador to Israel, and that he is super pro-Israel. Like screw those Palestinians. That's his viewpoint. What do you got on this?
Yeah, he doesn't even he calls it something in Samaria. Like he won't even acknowledge
It's the
that it's
biblical
Gaza.
terms. Yeah.
Yeah, he uses the
Yeah.
biblical terms, and he is
Judah. Is it
a young
Judah and
earth
Samaria?
creationist. Say that again?
It's like Judah, the kingdom of Judah and Samaria, or something like that. It's something
Yeah,
close to that.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So he's a young earth creationist, which means he thinks the earth is only 2,000 years old and
No,
that God put dinosaur
it's not
bones.
2000. They think it's 6,000 years old. So, because in the
Okay,
Bible, you have 2,000 years since Christ, but there's 4,000 years of history in the Bible
right.
before Christ. So, yeah, young earth creationists are the most interesting of religious people to me because, like, there are certain things like Noah's Ark. Me and you have joked about Noah's Ark before, and it's like you can't really think that's real, right? But like you'll meet people that are like, no, like they found part of it in the Himalayas, and I saw something on Discovery Channel about it, and searching for Noah's Ark, and it's like, like I don't want to argue with you about that, but it's a little outlandish. But then at
Well,
least
that's my
now,
whole argument with the Bible is like you
well, but
believe in the whole Bible, and somebody's like, yeah, I believe in the whole Bible, even Noah's Ark. So you believe that kangaroos swam from Australia to get on this ark.
and here's the thing. There are some stories in the Bible that might not be true, but that doesn't mean that the overriding theme is not true. That doesn't mean that there's not a Jesus or a God. It just means that
Sure.
one story is a little bit outlandish, and that's more my point of view on it. But at least you can be like, oh well, Noah's Ark was so long ago, we don't have history on that, so you can't really definitively say anything. The young Earth
What was the
Christians,
biggest boat back then?
hold
What was
on,
the largest boat in production back then?
I'm not going to argue the point of Noah's Ark. I'm just saying, but the young Earth Christians believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old and that man and dinosaur were both alive 6,000 years ago. And there is
Oh,
a museum, and I think it's in Tennessee, and it's like it's got a big Noah's Ark out front. It's basically the Young Earth Christian Museum or amusement park. I don't know what it is. But
okay.
when you go in, they have like wax. It's like a wax museum almost at parts of it, and it has like a caveman like leading a stegosaurus that has a saddle on its back and like reins and like a bit in its mouth, and he's like leading it like you would a horse. And because that's the only
Oh,
way you can account for the dinosaur fossils, and say so
so
clearly
man
that
ruled over the dinosaurs.
yes, man, like basically what do you call it when you take a wild animal and you domesticate? They domesticated
You
dinosaurs. Yeah.
domesticated the dinosaurs.
Um, but
Interesting.
the thing is, we have actual like pretty good history going back 6,000 years from now. Like we know what was going on back then, so it's kind of hard to. That's where I'm just like, how do you believe that? Like we know what humanity was doing at this time.
Dude,
Uh,
scientists are wrong, Andy, about everything. The
one of the
healthcare, vaccines, they're wrong about everything, Andy. They're wrong about the dinosaurs. They're wrong about
one of the
climate
smartest
change.
things one of the smartest thing religious people did, and they did it 100 years ago. But they started to say that science was the work of the devil. The devil put it here to try to make you question the
Oh,
Bible and don't give into that temptation. And if you just say that, like, oh, that's kind of dumb, but like, no, that's the perfect. Like, if anybody ever tries to bring something science, hey, well, look at this. We have fossil records dating back to 60,000 years ago to humanoid type creatures. And you can say, oh, that's science. That's the devil. The devil put those bones there to try to tempt me into not having faith in the Bible, but I'm not going to fall for it. And that's, you can say that's ridiculous, but it's the ultimate. It was a smart move by them. 100 years later, and it's still in effect.
science isn't real. It's yeah,
It's the work of the devil. So
interesting.
yeah,
So yeah, and part of this Mike Huckabee Israel thing, he basically wants Israel to take back their land so that the
he
earth will
doesn't
end and we all go to and people go to heaven.
he doesn't believe that any parts of Israel should be Palestinian held. So Gaza and the West Bank, he thinks should just be eliminated, and
Oh, and there's
Israel
parts
should
of like what else is surrounding there? There's parts of other countries that he wants to take back. You
yeah.
think,
There is a thing where there's a group of like they seem to be like the Christian nationalist types that believe that like once all the invaders are eliminated from Israel, the Palestinians, that like that will bring upon the Armageddon. I'm not familiar enough to talk about this, but like it'll bring upon the end, and that's what we need
yeah,
to be raptured. And being raptured is a good thing. So it's the quicker we can help get rid of all the Palestinians, the quicker we'll bring Christ back, and we all go to heaven. It's something along those lines.
who are these people called?
I don't know. I don't know the name, but
Okay.
I've heard the theory a couple different times. I'm doing a bad job probably. If there's any of them that happen to be listening, they're probably mad about how I'm describing it. That's the gist of it.
Okay.
Um,
Well, there's like parts of Lebanon and like other
yeah,
countries that they need to take back, and then Armageddon will begin. And this is what
yeah,
Mike Huckabee wants. So he's like pro-Israel, just basically taking over and
yeah.
destroying people. Yeah.
If there's a group that's out of Dearborn, Michigan, that's like the like Palestinian voters of the Democratic Party, or I can't remember what they are, but they were the group that said like we're not voting for Kamala because the Biden administration is supporting Israel, and
Yeah.
they apparently Trump went there and spoke and like gave them certain assurances that he would like protect Palestine, and now with everything he said on there, it's kind of like I feel for the people of Palestine, but like when I watch these American pro-Palestinian people and they seem so confused and sad, and they're like, but Donald Trump said that he was gonna. It's like, no, Donald Trump lied to you, and if you didn't see that coming, then you're an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. For
so
some, I mean, I know why. Like Biden's bad with Israel. Kamala would have been bad with Israel. Basically, all of our. I mean, you saw when Netanyahu came in, he got a standing ovation.
what
What the fuck? Like, there's 44,000 dead Palestinians.
what I said to you at the time is I said I know that Biden Harris is not great on it, but it's a binary choice. And if we're just looking at the two choices, I'd much rather have them because at least they'll try to, hey, BB, can you please be a little more careful? Like they might not be effective, but they're at least going to try a little bit. Whereas Trump is going to be like, flatten it, do whatever you
Yeah.
got to do.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
give me those two options, I'm still going Biden Harris. Now, I don't, I'm not as far into it as the people that are like, they need to cut off all weapon shipments like immediately, blah, blah. Like, no, no, I think we need to eliminate Hamas. And I think that taking your foot off the gas will inevitably let Hamas get a chance to regroup and reorganize. But there's a way to keep your foot on the gas and also avoid civilian targets way better than they're
Like
currently
not
doing.
bombing hospitals and schools and
Yeah,
like base
I
camps, basically letting them eat, letting food trucks come in and feed them, letting
there's
humanitarian aid in, maybe even let some journalists in to take some photos. Why don't
the
you? I
I'm sure
mean,
you saw it, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, I think is what it stands for.
yeah,
They put out some warrants on, and the thing is, like Bush had warrants out by them for the Iraq War,
yep.
and as an American, like yeah, he probably deserved those warrants, but also like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you're not going to do shit because we're America, and that's what we do. We break fucking international law, and that's where we're at here. Because if America's protecting BB, and they like, I saw somebody that's part of Trump's team came out and said that if any of America's allies try to help the ICC enforce this, that we're
Yeah.
going to put sanctions on them and this and that, and basically nobody better help them. But the reason we're doing that is because if we let them get BB for that, like Oh, there's so much they could get America for. Like the shit that, Team America World Police flying around the world doing our thing. So like we
Yeah.
can't let BB go down because that we're next. Like so we have to protect BB. I don't like it at all, but like
I
there's
mean, why do we even have like I feel like we put some of these laws in place, yeah.
yeah,
Why are we breaking the law? It's
because
like
we're
we're the
America.
police. Yeah,
We're
we can do
America,
whatever the
damn it.
hell we
I
want,
mean,
huh?
who's gonna stop us? That's the
It's
mentality.
frustrating.
I'm not at all saying it's right. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation. It's
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, and
that's
why is it why can Israel lobby all of our politicians?
why can't
Bribe.
it
Let's just say bribe. It's not even lobbying. Let's just say it's bribery straight up.
well, why can any but any? I mean, and right now part of the thing I was reading today is about all the like fast food and basically junk food like companies are like
Hmm.
getting their shit together right now to start a big lobbying push to counter anything RFK might do. Why is that allowed? That's no different than I mean, you're specifically pointing out like Israel's lobbying, but like why are we allowing congressmen and senators to basically take and they don't I want to look into this because they're not getting checks directly. Like this group's not giving them
It goes to their
$500
campaign
handshakes.
funds.
It
It
goes
goes
to
to
their
campaigns.
campaign. It goes to their super PACs. It comes in the form of trips, and
Yep.
flying them out to places and putting. But like, I want to see exactly how do they benefit. I'm going to do some homework on that. But we shouldn't allow anybody to do that. If you're an elected representative, you should not be able to take any form of gift or anything from any of
Yeah.
these companies that you're regulating. And that's the part of the whole drain the swamp thing that everybody wants. That
Yep.
ain't happening. And I've told you before,
Exactly.
it ain't happening if a Democrat gets in. It's not happening, period. The only way to enact that is to get Congress and the Senate to vote on that. So they would all have to vote on not letting themselves take bribes. Good luck.
Yeah. What a
So,
nightmare. What a nightmare
yep,
we found ourselves in this.
we do. And that's what like right okay, so I've been given a lot of thought to this. I've said for since RFK jumped on the Trump team, my big thing with the RFK thing, I've told you is like I some of the things RFK wants to do, I don't have a problem with, but I don't see Republicans letting him do it. And due to regulations, they want to slash regulations. He in order to do anything he wants to do would mean more regulations. Like a, a couple of things he's going to really easily be able to do is like allowing the raw milk because that has to do with cutting a regulation. And Trump and
Yeah.
Elon and Vivek are all about cutting regulations. So some of it he can get done real quick.
Right.
But the other stuff, taking stuff out of our foods means new regulations. And Vivek and Elon's whole job is to slash as many regulations as possible and to downsize all of these departments. If you're RFK, you need new regulations and you need
Yep.
some form of inspection, some form to make sure that this is being followed. And you can't
Yep.
do that if your department gets slashed. So right there is what I've been saying forever, but I'm fine. I've been saying this to you for 3 months. I'm just now seeing articles written about it where people are kind of, oh, actually, it turns out like what Elon and Vivek are trying to do is totally at odds with what RFK is trying to do. And this is going to come down to a little bit of a, I don't want to say a battle, but like there's going to be a winner out of this. And I guess Trump's going to ultimately decide. But are they going to slash HHS, CDC, FDA, or are they going to let Robert Kennedy expand it in the name of MAHA, Make America Healthy Again?
That's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah. And certain, like the whole getting through Congress. First, I haven't looked up anything on Tulsi, so I'm not prepared to talk about her today. But right now, I'd say the person that is going to have the hardest time now that Gaetz is gone, Tulsi is the one that I think is going to have the hardest time getting through Congress. And it just seems like there's enough Republicans and Democrats both that don't trust her in that role.
Yeah.
But RFK is not a shoe in. And like Chuck Grassley, who he's 90, I think, 91 maybe, Iowa senator. Um, he said that he wants to meet with he can't wait to meet with Elon and he can't wait to educate him on corn or something or not Elon, sorry, it was RFK. He can't wait to meet
Okay.
with RFK and educate him about corn because Iowa's a big corn producing state and a
Oh,
lot of the corn syrup is a thing that RFK I'm sure would and by all accounts it seems like we need to get rid of corn syrup. I saw a
totally.
study
Yes,
where
absolutely.
it kills brain cells in high dosages in
And it's
rats or whatever.
more expensive than
Yeah.
substitutes. So
But the thought of RFK
danger.
and Chuck Grassley sitting down and Chuck Grassley trying to educate him on why we need to keep producing corn and this and that, like it's gonna be interesting. Like that, I wouldn't be
Where
shocked.
does RFK get his information from?
I don't know. so because of this whole, I'm going to back up real quick. This is crazy that we're doing this in November, okay? Normally, we have the election, whoever wins wins, and we don't even start to hit excuse me, we don't even start to hear about their potential cabinet picks until like late December, early January.
Trump did
And
this last time. He immediately had his cabinet in place. Like
well,
he's the only one.
he like and I think it's gonna hurt him. Like it'd be better if he waited and announced them and they got a quick because we have 2.5 months to like rehash all of this stuff on say RFK. And they've been pulling it all out, all the stuff are the Samoa and the 83 people that died, mostly children.
Yeah.
Um, they even I saw a clip the other day where they had him on his podcast talking to somebody and they were talking about chemtrails and chemtrails being real. Um, vaccines cause autism. They're
I want to see his Google feed.
What's weird is RFK apparently has had a podcast for like several years. I've never
Oh,
heard it. I After I saw a clip from it, I went and looked and like, yeah, he's got a podcast. Like nobody listens to it. It's You would think with the
it's
following he has, he'd have a big podcast, but yeah, his
no, it's
podcast
all
is not.
TikToks.
I guess so. Um, but yeah, that's
Huh.
where I'm I'm geared up for that because I've been saying to you forever, like I'm curious how this is going to work because everything RFK wants to do runs counter to the Republican plan, the Project
Yeah.
2025 plan of slashing everything, blowing
Yeah.
it up. So
It's
who do
gonna
you
be
think is going to come
interesting.
out on top of that? Well, I'm going to say Vivek and Elon versus RFK. Who wins this? Are we gonna slash RF or slash HHS and FDA, or is it gonna
I
grow?
think RFK gets booted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I
Do you think
think
he makes it through?
Trump used him to get that soccer mom yoga soccer mom vote, and
Mm.
now he's done with him.
It's a What's a shame is that he could do some good things for food, like he really
Yeah.
could. And
No.
I wish you had more to do with the environment. I trust him more environmentally than I do with the food.
Exactly.
Um, but he could do some things. But I'm very afraid still, like with a potential bird flu coming and whatever else is coming after that. Like the problem is I'm about to say something that immediately is going to piss off any MAGA watching, but like I want to be able to trust HHS and the government and the CDC when the next thing hits. Now, all of them are saying that they certainly didn't trust Anthony Fauci and the whole last crew. So I get that
Right.
there's no trust there. But like, what do we got to do to make that like not a political organization and just doctors that we trust? I mean, I don't see a fix. Like I think whoever's in charge is going to put their doctors in, and we've now hit a point like doctors were something that kind of got left out. We all disagreed on a lot of stuff, but we trusted whatever doctors were saying. And now there is Democrat doctors and Republican doctors, and they're not saying the same thing. And ah,
Wait. They're not? Wait a second. Who are the Republican doctors that aren't saying? Because I feel
the
like it's 99% of doctors, scientists that are saying the same thing, and it's like a 1% that are
the
saying
th-
so.
the three doctors that he's named as like one of them is attorney or surgeon general, excuse me. The surgeon general is a former she's a former Fox News like she's the doctor they bring on to talk about stuff when things are happening. But
Yeah.
she got her medical degree in like Costa Rica or something, and she owns like a chain or she's on the board of a chain of like what Care Now or Urgent Care like those doc in a
Uh-huh.
box type things. She's on the board of a chain of those, and she's
Okay.
now the surgeon general. Um, she was
Okay.
actually very pro-vaccine through the third shot, through like the first booster or whatever. And
Okay.
then as the sentiment started, like there's clips of her there airing left and right of her on Fox News, like telling people to get their third shot and this and that. And then when the
Okay.
whole Republican Party started to totally just turn against vaccines, she totally rode the wind and ended up on the anti-vax side, anti-mask, anti-vax. But it's her and two other doctors, and all three of them, like they are doctors 100%, but like he found the three doctors that align with what Republicans think, and they are running the shots. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So we're just gonna get rid of vaccines, and
he said that
it's gonna
he's
be
not
interesting.
getting rid of anybody's vaccine. They're just not going to make you take it, and they're going to make the data basically easily available to where everybody can know the risks. Now, I listened to it. It was a podcast with two doctors, and I can't remember their names, but I've seen them on TV before. They're TV doctors, and they were like, "Hey, the good thing is he's going to get in, and he's going to look at the data, and he's going to realize that the data is pretty damn strong. That vaccines are good, and
Yeah.
this and that." And they seem very confident. I think that you can manipulate a
But he
study
could
to
have already
say
looked at the data. Like I mean, if he has such a strong opinion, he has to have already looked at the data, or somebody had to have already shown him this
I
data.
I wish I knew how to read these things because, like, I'll listen to him talk about it, and he's like, "Yeah, the studies clearly show blah blah blah, whatever, something bad for vaccines. Vaccines are hurting people." And then
Hmm.
I'll search out a podcast where it's a response to that, basically, and it's a doctor, and the doctor's like, "Hey, he is totally misreading these numbers to validate his point, when in actuality these numbers say this." And it's like they're both looking at the same study, but this doctor is saying that no, RFK is wrong. These numbers show that it's clearly right. And it all comes, I don't know. I don't know how to read it myself. So it comes down to you have to trust somebody. And I'm one of those people where I look at it and I say, okay, 95% of doctors all agree and 5% disagree. I'm going to listen to the 95%. Now,
Absolutely.
are a large number of those 95% also kind of in the pocket of big pharma? Yeah, but so are the other five. The other 5% on the other side are also somehow on the take.
What is it with Republicans that they're just so anti-science that they believe that 5%? Like they don't look at all the doctors and go, okay, so there's 100 doctors and 95 of them are saying this, but five of them are saying this. I mean, even with climate change, they go to that 5% and they go, oh no, these guys are the real deal here.
I think that, and Fox News is the key to this because it used to be just Fox News out there. If you were a Republican that wanted to watch stuff, it was Fox and it was Rush Limbaugh on AM radio.
Totally.
But they got in line real quickly with, like a Republican talking point because Republicans pro oil and gas. So climate
Totally.
change isn't real. And if Rush Limbaugh and Fox News are saying that, then and that's what you're listening to, then it's really easy to say, like, yeah, no, everything I've seen is that this isn't real. And they're not lying. That's everything they've seen. Uh, so I think that the fact that we now have two totally separate information bubbles. And if you watch MSNBC, you're very worried about carbon footprint and climate change. And if you watch Fox, or now we have Fox or One American News or Newsmax or whatever it may be, like
Yeah.
you can't believe that anybody's dumb enough to believe in climate change. And here's the thing: it's a form of brainwashing, but it is on both sides. Like
Yeah.
both sides are sure that they're right, and the other side is wrong, and that's fascinating to watch. I wish everybody jumped back and forth between both bubbles because, like, when you do, it's pretty hysterical what's going on. But most
Yeah.
people don't and only know what their bubble's saying. And if you try to tell them something that the other bubble's saying, they think it's laughable. Like, how could
Yeah.
you believe? So
Huh.
it's
Yeah,
very
it's
weird.
it's wild. It's so wild.
Yeah.
Did you
And
see? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I will say though I've been thinking about it, and I used to say that CNN at least like showed both sides of, if you know what the Republicans are saying. I think Breaking Points is the best at that. Crystal and Sagar,
They do a good
like
job for sure.
they do a great job of, yeah, here's something that's bad for Republicans and here's something bad for Democrats and back and forth, and here's something good. And if you watch their show, you will have a good idea of what both sides are truly saying and what's happening in the information bubble. And I don't think there's any other program like that. And I'll call you out, and I've said it to you a bunch, but like if you're like, yeah, man, I only listen to David Pakman and Kyle Klinsky, like, dude, you're fucking being brainwashed. Like, I'm not saying you in particular, but like for real, like you should also sprinkle in some. I've been reading more right wing stuff than I normally do. I'm probably what I'm taking right now is more right wing than left wing by far. And it's
Okay.
interesting because like I want to see what they're saying about this, and it's kind of funny because like I said, that one Lori Chavez de Reamer, like they fucking don't like her at all. Like they're not happy with this pick. They think this is a betrayal by Trump. Um,
Hmm.
so that's the first time I've seen real pushback where people are saying they're not happy with something Trump did in right wing information bubbles. So good
Okay.
deal.
Did you
Yeah.
see Trump pissed off the libertarians?
By not he promised him he would put a libertarian in the cabinet, and then he didn't.
Yeah.
Shocker. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
he could try to say that Elon is the libertarian in the cabinet. I'm surprised he
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
said that because Elon could be a libertarian. So
Yeah. Okay. All
yeah.
right. Capitalist. Yeah, he's very okay.
Yep.
Also, Trump is so he hasn't signed, his team hasn't signed the paperwork to do background checks
Mhm.
on his incoming cabinet. And so
There's
they're concerned that he's not going to sign it and there's not going to be any background checks for anybody going through. any of this stuff. And Tulsi's the one that keeps coming up in the left wing bubble,
Mhm.
um, because nobody really knows where she came from, I guess.
It's not where she came from. It's over the last couple of years, she's taken a lot of suspicious trips to Russia,
Right.
like a
Yeah.
lot. So that there's a slight chance, and I don't think it's going to happen, but there seems to be enough people talking about it in the House and the Senate that they want to try to pass something real quick, basically making it like a law that like the incoming administration has to sign like for the FBI background checks or whatever. Like
Oh, good.
they
Okay.
can't do it. They can't not do it. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I know that's being talked about though, so
Okay.
it's scary. It's very scary if you're like, no background checks, like just let them in and let them have full security clearances. Like what? Like that's
Yeah,
it.
that's wild.
I'll say this. I'm glad I didn't like the Democrats talking about doing away with the filibuster, and a lot of the far left was all about that. They wanted to get rid of the filibuster and ram some shit through. And it's one of those
Mm,
where it's like, if you do that, eventually there's going to be a Republican in charge, and they can ram their shit through. And a
yep.
lot of these things that Trump's trying to do, I'm like law of unintended consequences. Like, if you guys are successful here, and then AOC becomes president in 2028, like get fucking ready. Like she doesn't have to like consult Congress at all about spending. She can
Oh,
give universal health care. Uh, think of all universal child care, universal higher education. Like she could do all that without having to go through Congress, just a stroke of a pen if Trump is successful. So I
yeah,
wish
he can't be
everybody.
successful. Hopefully there our checks and balances are good enough to where that doesn't work because like we have to have checks and balances or we have a tyrant in office, a dictator.
I think his thing with the Impoundment Control Act, uh, I think he's going to lose that case, but I think it's going to take like 3 years in total for like a ruling to come out. And in those 3 years, he's going to be able to do a lot of damage in the meantime. He's going to be doing it the whole way until they tell him he can't. So
Uh,
that's my theory is he's going to get 3 out of 4 years of just slashing whatever all the programs that he doesn't like that on they help underprivileged people for the most part, poor people. So
yeah. Yep, fuck the poor.
yeah, they
It's gonna
should
be
try not to be
interesting.
poor. You should stop being poor.
Just
It's not
stop being
fun.
poor.
Yeah.
Pull
Um,
yourself up by your bootstraps, bro.
Yep. So, you got anything
Mhm.
else?
I think that was all I had. How about you?
Okay. No, that's it. I'm heading to Texas in the morning. Oh,
Okay.
real quick, you know how we talked about Oklahoma and my wonderful state superintendent is pushing to get the Bible back in school and sending
Yeah,
videos of
yeah.
himself doing a prayer for Trump. Texas passed a new curriculum this week that has their elementary age kids learning about the Bible. So
Oh,
they one upped Oklahoma. So now Oklahoma's gonna
oh.
have to respond. Arkansas and Missouri and Mississippi and all them are gonna jump in at any minute. And
So
yeah,
it actually passed and
so it passed it. So that came out of the like the state school board, I guess. I don't know. It didn't go through the House or anything, but they have the power to implement it. So somebody's going to sue, and then that'll
yep.
again have to work its way up to the Supreme Court. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And normally, like it's the Department of Education that would step in first and try to stop it, and then sue and get it into the Supreme Court. And Trump's either doing away with the Department of Education or he's officially named Linda McMahon, who's was
You're
it
right.
Vince McMahon from the WWF or whatever. Um,
Totally.
which it's funny, like when she got added to the cabinet, she is the fifth, basically sexual assaulter, to be named. Which I saw that
She
and I was
is?
like, oh, yeah. Apparently, she's being sued because like her and Vince like allowed for it was like young men to get assaulted by people that work for the WWE or WWF. I
Oh,
don't know the full. They're being
interesting.
sued for it. So yeah, she added to the roster of how many like sexual abusers he has appointed. And anyhow, it somebody said
We're living in a dream, dude. We're living in a dream. This is
somebody
wild.
said that this cabinet is a backlash to the Me Too era. And it's like, man, okay, I guess, but I mean, we don't have to go all out and like put several people accused of sexual assault on there, but it makes sense
Oh,
when you got Trump, who himself has been, I'd like to say, credibly accused in several occasions of it. And then he names, I mean, we had Gaetz, who's now gone. We got Hegseth, we got Linda McMahon, and there's two others, and I can't think who they are right now. I can't remember. Anyhow, it's just where we're at, man. It's
uh,
gonna be fine.
dude.
They're not gonna sexually assault anybody else. They've learned.
Hopefully
They're
not.
okay. Yeah. It's gonna be
Hegseth might
fine.
be. have a hard time getting through.
Yeah.
That's
And
my thought.
I think Tulsi's got the hardest time. So if Tulsi gets through, I'll be kind of shocked. I
Yeah.
honestly think RFK gets through because he's going to get a couple Democrat votes. That's my dark horse thing. I think that
Uh,
like I think 10 or so Republicans say no, but enough Democrats say yes to get him over the line.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's so crazy. I can't imagine that. Like, what Democrats do we have that are like anti-vaccine and like pro raw milk?
So what they're going to do is they're going to get him in confirmation to promise to commit that he's not going to do this or not going to do that, that he's not going to take away and he's going to say all the right things and say nope, I'm definitely not going to take away anybody's vaccines. Then they're going to say okay, I feel comfortable voting for him here. And that's the same thing that happened with all three Supreme Court justices Trump named during confirmation. They all said Roe versus Wade is settled. We're not going to change it. And then when given the opportunity, they did change it. So you can say whatever you want in confirmation hearings. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get held to it. So he'll go in and he'll say all the right things.
Hmm.
So that's my
Interesting.
thought.
So if he does like leave it up to this individual to get vaccines or not, how long do you think it's going to take before there's like a measles outbreak in Florida?
I mean, there's already measles outbreaks that pop up like all around. This normally it's little
And it's
pocket
all it's
communities,
always in these like
liberal areas.
homes, yeah, these homeschooled like
Yeah,
areas where they're not doing the vaccines.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
so then it's just going to get bigger and harder to control. But if you have your vaccine, then you're not going to get the measles, right?
Yeah,
or is it one of those ones that morphs and everybody can pick it up
I
again?
know it. All I can say is that it has to do with herd immunity. Like we
Yeah.
have to, like a certain percentage of the population needs to be immunized, or else it can run rampant. So if we fall below a certain threshold, or a certain percent is not getting the vaccine, then we have issues. I don't know how it works. I've heard that.
Hey, who needs a
So
border wall when you got like measles outbreaks all over the country?
it's gonna be
Nobody's gonna want to come here.
yeah, I'll say this. I'm now really glad that I live out of the city and kind of in the country because like it looks like you have a lot easier time just not coming in contact with people out here. Like living in a crowded city like LA or New York, like COVID or whatever the next thing is a lot harder because everybody's crammed into like what do they call that? Like high population something density. There's a word for it where a lot of people are
Sure.
crammed into one spot. And
Right.
I'm glad I'm not there. I'm gonna be hiding out in the country, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm here in the mountains, so
yep. Good
it'll be
luck,
interesting.
sir. So, all right. Have a good night, sir.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
I'll see you soon.